Welcome to our show, Marriage Show, Barefoot Marriage Show to be more precise. We're talking about love this morning. Love, right? But not falling in love, but falling out of love.
Assalamualaikum, good morning. I am having to have a hot drink because I've got something in my throat. Maybe a frog or something
Don't announce that to the whole world. People will
I
start
can't
getting
talk, so
worried.
if you see me or hear me coughing, I will try to do my best not to.
As long as you're not coughing on me, that's all right.
I've done that already. So welcome to our conversation that we keep doing every Sunday, and many of you have been joining us over the last couple of months and nearly a year now since we've been doing it. And we want to have these conversations because we want to help ourselves and help our community to have more confident relationships.
Well, talking about confident relationships, well, some people fall in love and fall out of love, or at least some people claim that they've fallen out of love. I have a genuine problem with that. You can't fall out of love. If you fall out of love, I believe you've misunderstood the concept of love in the first place. If you truly understood what love was, you cannot fall in and out of love. Yeah, your love would go up and down, that is absolutely fine, no problem. But if you think you can fall out of love and fall into love, I think there is a serious problem in your understanding of love. Now, this is a hypothesis on my part. I'm putting this out for you to argue with me. Go on, prove me wrong. That those who say they have fallen in love or fallen out of love, they've actually completely misunderstood the concept of love. How true or how false is my statement? I couldn't obviously open up that conversation with my wife. She's looking at me thinking, why is he saying something like that? But that's my hypothesis. That's the argument I'm going to have whole morning.
You just like arguing, don't you?
That's all right.
Well, last week you were arguing about something else.
You can't even remember. It was so significant, last week's argument.
We were talking about, what were we talking about last week?
There you go. Don't worry about it. It wasn't important.
Anyway, so yes, we wanted to talk about falling out of love because in our community we see a lot of changes with the dynamics of relationship, the dynamics of how marriages work out or they don't, how quickly people go for divorce. And one of the main reasons that they use for divorce is that, oh, I have fallen out of love with my husband or wife, or he or she is not the same person I used to fall in love with or were in love with. Therefore, I'm gonna go because I'm not getting what I want. It's not working for me. There is no more love. There is nowhere to go to rescue the relationship. So we thought this is a very important topic of discussion. So please do let us know where you are with this topic. What does it mean to fall out of love, if it means anything to you? How does it manifest for you in your life, whether you are able to work with this or you are fighting it? Just let us know. Ask questions. Share your experiences with us. My take on this as a start of the conversation is I hear people often say we click. So if there is a click, there must be an unclick. If there is a love that you fall into, everything has an opposite. So
is clicking love?
no, I'm not talking about, I didn't quantify it as love, but if people say we click, we meet somebody as a friend or in an event and you click, you have a genuine sense of connection or relationship with that person, even if you meet for the first time. Is there an unclicking somewhere in that relationship, or can we continuously run ourselves on the clicking? And similarly, can we follow our relationship just being on the notion of how we fell in love with each other?
I think it's just all about people's perception of what is relationship. Let's start from there. In my view, relationship is when two people come together. Whether you have come together because you had fallen in love, I do accept that. Whether you've come together because somebody has arranged your marriage, or you were just introduced and then you clinically, almost like you go on a shopping spree and you do pros and cons and that kind of an academic exercise, and found somebody that you could connect with and then decided to get married. Whether your relationship began traditionally or conventionally or non-conventionally, I don't mind, however it began. What is that relationship? Because falling in love, if that was the beginning of your relationship, surely you can't sustain that level of height of love or emotions or feelings for one person. You can't. It's impossible. So what is it? What is relationship? In my view, a relationship is when two people come together. However they come together, it doesn't matter. But they agree to live together, they agree to share together, they agree to build together. So, agree to live together what? In a home, build a home, but that is safe and secure. Agree to share together what? A life. Goodness, badness, ups, downs, happiness, sadness, celebrations, misery, commiserations, everything. Prepared to share together and build together a family where they will live, they may have children, or their families may interact. So, live together, share together, and build together a space that is safe. In Islam is called sakina. When you agree with somebody like that, sometimes you could agree with somebody like that on a functional basis. It may not have that what we call romantic love attached to it. It may not have it, right? Sometimes it may. I'm not saying it doesn't. It does and doesn't. And if the possibility is there that it may not, then what is it that keeps them together? What is it that keeps them together? And how can you suddenly get out of that particular agreement or the comfort of feeling safe and secure with a person? Suddenly, how can you come out of it?
I think there are a number of reasons, and it's not always comfortable. It's not always convenient.
Then they shouldn't be together, that person.
No, but what people realize in a relationship is that maybe it started off as a relationship of comfort, but after a while it's not. Maybe it was a relationship of convenience. Relationship is a dynamic thing. It changes. What it was before, it's not the same as what it is, years down the line or even months down the line, especially with newlyweds. I'm thinking about newlyweds who don't quite catch the changing nature of relationship. And the more conscious you are how your relationship changes, the more conscious you can be about making the adjustments with each other, not individually anymore, but together.
For some reason, people are saying our volume is very low. Why is the volume very low, ladies and gentlemen? It should be working. Let me the microphone. I think it should be working now. Give us a feedback about the volume. Rahman Hassan said, Assalamu alaikum, mashallah, volume is very low. Please increase. Can you hear us now? I hope you can. Well, my voice is very loud, so if I speak very loudly, the whole house will wake up. I think you can, inshallah. Rahman Hassan, can you confirm if you can hear it? Anyway, so convenience could be, or the circumstances could change. I understand that. That's normal. In every human life, it is normal. But the fundamental ingredients that brought you together, if that disappears, then that marriage should be over.
And how do you know what is the fundamental? I don't think many people actually know what is the fundamental ingredients for a relationship.
Well, let's talk about some of the symptoms of what it means to fall out of love, or perhaps in a relationship where it's gone sour. Number one, you feel that you don't want to spend any more time with your spouse anymore. There is no longing to be in their company. You suddenly say, you know what? I don't want to be in that person's company anymore. I don't enjoy that company. I want to stay away as much as possible. That's when you realize something has gone wrong with that relationship. Is that true for a woman too?
Yes.
Universal.
Yes, it is.
So he sits in one room, you sit in a different room deliberately. You don't want to see his face or her face. You don't want to spend time together walking, sharing, driving, shopping, none of that. You don't want to have dinner together. You don't want to spend any time consciously together. Only time you probably spend time is when you're both asleep in bed. That doesn't count really. So what's going on in that relationship that you don't want to spend time with your spouse? What could have happened?
I think a number of things
that
could have happened. So I think it's to do with the time that you spent in increasing time. So someone who doesn't want to spend time with their partner at the beginning of the relationship is probably for very different reasons than for someone who has been together for 20, 25 years. So that's one thing. The kind of activities that you used to do together changes, interest changes, age changes, the capacity to be able to do those activities together, and maybe that kind of moves people away from, I can do this with other people, or I don't feel like doing it anymore. It's not my kind of activity. At the beginning, I think people make a lot of effort to do the things that the other person enjoys more. As you settle in your own life, and please prove me wrong if this is completely off the mark, but as you settle, you become more and more picky about what you like spending. Your time becomes more precious.
But I'm talking about it at a deeper level. I'm saying those things can change, but that does not mean you've fallen out of love with your spouse. You just don't want to see the face of your spouse anymore. You've got to that point where you are not comfortable in their company. You don't feel safe in your heart. You don't feel physically, emotionally safe to be in their company. That's when you know there is something wrong in that relationship. Other levels of you have different sorts of activities. I have different sets of activities. That's okay. You read a different type of book, watch a different type of film. No problem. People can still long to be in the company of their loved ones with different and differing interests. That's not what I want you to be alarmed by. Just because he likes biryani and you like pizza, it doesn't mean you've fallen out of love. That's not what I mean. I mean, you just don't want to be actively in each other's company. You avoid each other. Remember, that's one sign. Mumin Qureshi says, oh, volume is fine. Thank you very much, Mumin. Mumtaz Bari says, I think there are many challenges to overcome after that initial honeymoon period. First of all, learning to live with each other, it takes a huge amount of compromise. It's that age-old saying, you never know him until you live with him, absolutely, or live with her. It's that way, isn't it? So that's right, living with that person. But we're talking about you're living with them already. What is the sign of when you've fallen out of love, if that ever happens? The first one I am suggesting is that when you don't want to be in their company anymore, you don't like to be with them, you don't like to spend time with them, you feel you actively avoid them, trying to stay away from your spouse as much as possible.
I think the key word here is consciously avoiding.
Yes,
it's not because sometimes you feel you don't want to be with me and sometimes I feel I don't want to be with you, but that's not coming from that place of
that could be anger.
Consciously, but it's consciously not wanting.
Or just tired.
And making sure that, oh, let me just do everything possible to avoid. That's very different because it comes from a bad intention. It's avoiding by intention. I think that's really the key.
Wahidul Alam says, yes, I can hear you well. Can hear you perfectly, says Mumtaz Bari. Mumtaz Bari then says, also external factors, whether it be interfering in-laws or friends either side, that definitely can take its toll on a marriage. I always find this interfering in-law business really drives me up the wall. The very person who becomes the in-law was once upon a time the very daughter-in-law who is having trouble with the mother-in-law. Once upon a time. Now you are the daughter-in-law. You'll become a mother-in-law one day.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. This very daughter-in-law turns into a mother-in-law. And this mother-in-law, I'm not saying you are, somehow becomes the bane of all troubles. Why is mother-in-law such a trouble? Why is it that the daughter-in-laws and mother-in-laws can't cope with one another? Is it because they've fallen out of each other? Fallen out of love? I don't know. A discussion for another time. But today let's focus on the very important part. What are the signs of falling out of love? It's the first one I've said. What's your second one?
I think when there is physical, verbal, or emotional or spiritual abuse.
Okay. But that...
Because if you are loving somebody, whatever level that love is, but if you resort to any kind of abuse, physical is obviously a more visible sign, but there's a lot of emotional and spiritual abuse going on in a relationship. If you resort to that, I think that's a sign that you are not acting from love, you are acting for vengeance or whatever else the emotion is.
Or from a very dark part of your brain, of your emotions. You are abusive towards your spouse. That means something has gone wrong. So what do we mean by that? Verbal abuse is when you use vulgar, rude, obnoxious, insulting, deriding, derogatory terminologies, languages to speak to your spouse. You use your mouth to control them, to abuse them, to make them feel this small. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. When you do that verbally, you have no right to use such language of foul, controlling, nasty, obnoxious language against your spouse. Who gave you that right? Just because you're married to me, there is no license for you to swear at me. There is no license for you to talk to me with no respect. Who gave you that license to be abusive towards me? Who? I asked that question to couples. Tell me, who gave you that license? What, just because I got married to you? No. So get that right. When you are abusive verbally, when you are emotionally abusive, when you are sexually abusive, economically abusive, when you are physically abusive, and when you are spiritually abusive, any area of abuse indicates that there is something seriously that's gone wrong with your relationship. I find spiritual abuse on the increase nowadays.
What do you mean?
A lot of people who suddenly become practicing Muslim, they suddenly feel God has given them license to now become abusive towards their spouse. I'm better Muslim now, you're not a good Muslim like me, I'm going to tell you off. Well, reminding your spouse that they need to pray is not the same thing as deriding them, condemning them for it. You are not a good Muslim. That's a condemning word. But honey, would you like to join me for prayers? That's an encouraging word. Oh my God, Fajr prayer is gone. That's a reminder. Shall we pray Maghrib? It's only 3 minutes left. That's a reminder. But you are a terrible Muslim, you never pray. That's a judgment. You have no right to give judgments on somebody else's Islam and Muslimness. You have every right to remind them, because the entire Quran is a reminder. Of course, Allah has given that to us. So each other, helping one another to become spiritually better, is a fantastic thing. But to put your spouse down because you think they are worse than you or lower than you spiritually is spiritual abuse.
I think in any way, any shape or form, the minute there is inequality in the way you look at your spouse is a kind of abuse, whether it's financially, physically, intellectually. It happens all the time.
And that's one of the biggest signs of abuse. Third, and most of you are probably thinking, okay, what's going to be the third? It's when you have given up on your relationship, when you've given up on your spouse, you become apathetic. No more, there's no hope. You know what, brother? I don't see any hope in this person. This person is a lost case. I'm just in it because I have children. I'm just staying in this relationship because we've bought assets. I'm in this relationship because I don't know where else I'm going to go. I have no parents alive. I have no brothers and sisters who I can turn to. I have no other places to go. I'll become homeless. I've given up on the relationship, but only staying together for other factors. That's a relationship that's gone down south. Down south is a good term,
It's not a good term for me, because every time I want to feel myself, I go south. I go to south of Spain. This is where I feel myself. So for me, I don't use that terminology of down south. But it's a really interesting point about giving up on relationships, because it's very different when you give up on a person, and it's different when you give up on a relationship. And I think it's easier to give up on a person than to give up on a relationship.
Explain that a bit more.
So I think as human beings, what we end up doing is we give up on each other, but we are still holding on to the idea that this relationship somehow, through some miracle, through some magic, something will happen, and then we just don't attend the relationship and it will sort itself out. Whereas with a human being, it would require daily interaction. But what makes us think that the relationship does not require daily work? If something doesn't work between me and my spouse, if I don't attend that every single day, the gap is going to be bigger and bigger. It's the same thing with the relationship. Yet as human beings, we just write people off, think, oh, okay, well, I don't have any more energy, I don't have any more time, I'm not doing anything with this person anymore.
I was thinking about hoovering, because we've got this machine that hoovers our house nowadays. We've got a robot that hovers, which is interesting. My son loves playing with it. I actually like it. I bought it. It's a good toy. It's a boy's toy, as they say. But I'll tell you, if you hoover your house every day or every other day, the dust that settles on the ground gets picked up. But if you leave it for the end of the month, it becomes double, treble, quadruple the work. Same as relationship. Small dust, grimes that gather in a relationship, if you don't deal with them, you develop, like Faisal Hussein is saying, frustration, irritation towards each other, resentment towards each other, which could lead to eventually giving up on your relationship. So yes, smallest thing, if it makes you give up on your spouse or the relationship, it means those small things have not been dealt with. You've allowed them to accumulate, gather, pile up on one another. And this piling up effect is a problem.
Well, it's a great metaphor, because giving up on a relationship or giving up on a person is like giving up on a house or the hoovering. Yeah. We give up on hoovering, but we never give up on our house. We hold on to the house like this, it's not safe for me to live on the street, so we...
But you can't live in a house that is dirty, cluttery...
I know you can, but people do.
Yes, I do.
And relationships work like that. We have given up on the person, but we are holding on to the relationship for dear life, because we are too scared of having an honest conversation to say what works, what doesn't work, would it be better for us to leave?
Yeah, or can we change?
Or how do we repair the relationship? Yeah. But it's not either or, you have to focus on both.
Yeah, I think it's very important to know that Thank you, Mumtaz. Poor communication too. If other side is unwilling to be open about issues honestly, yes, it is, of course. If you can't have an honest conversation with your spouse who is constantly guarded, who is constantly keeping their mouth shut and saying nothing and assuming or pretending to be okay, then that's not okay in a relationship. Those guys or girls, boys and girls, but I'm talking about husbands and wives who don't talk in their relationship, they have an avoidance character. They don't want to deal with issues. It's too difficult. They want to bury it under the carpet. Forget about it. It will go, disappear. It doesn't go. Trust me, it doesn't go. It comes back to bite you pretty badly. When you keep on piling them up, they will explode or implode from within. Eventually, something will give in. Somebody will leave or give up on the relationship completely and will be leaving you and you'll be alone. It's better facing the demon now than that demon becoming a monster. Do you understand that? It's very important. Faisal Hussein says, assuming that you understand the person, but really you don't, and vice versa, putting things under the carpet and telling it.
Letting it blow.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we have just talked about. So, very important not to give up on your spouse, and if there are issues that are coming in front of you, deal with them. Hannah, what's your fourth one?
I think my biggest thing about falling out of love is to understand that there will be periods of time when you don't experience love in intensity, in depth, the same way that you used to, or your idea of love isn't going to be the same.
What does that mean? You can't feel the same intensity. It's impossible.
No, but people need to understand that.
Oh, I see. To understand the varying
to
degrees.
Understand how the relationship ebbs and flows, and it's up and it's down, and I think we need to understand that relationship isn't a place to go to. It's not a destination. It's an ever evolving journey that we all have to take, and we do take. And it's the same with our children, the same with our, and I see a lot of people that when you come to seemingly to loggerheads, really the essence of the conflict isn't that you don't love each other. The essence of the conflict is that you expect something, the same thing that you expected 5, 10, whatever number of years ago. Like when you have teenagers, we can't have the same rules and we can't have the same expectations of a teenage boy than from a 5-year-old boy, because they have evolved and we have to evolve with the relationship. I can't tell my son to go to sleep at 7 simply because he's a teenage boy and he will never go to sleep at 7. So just like any other relationship we are in, a marital relationship is not a destination. Happiness of a couple is not a destination. It's the journey that we take, and sometimes we have to go through dark valleys. Sometimes we will be on the top of the mountain. Sometimes we will be chilling on the beach, literally in our relationship, because we worked hard to get to that place. And then there will be challenging. There will be other issues that come up where we actually have to remain committed to the relationship, but not holding on to the idea of we are traveling to a destination where everything will be happy and everything is going to be perfectly fine. It's just human nature that we are always going after the next thing to reach happiness, but a relationship really teaches us that happiness is in everything. There is good and bad. In every day there is good and bad. In every argument there is something good and there is something bad. Now, how conscious we are of that, I think that changes the dynamic.
I agree entirely, and I think there is a level of misunderstanding amongst many people, which is that the relationship will remain the same forever. They don't understand that just like I change, relationship will change. Just like I have grown, my love for my wife or my husband will change. We'll have this ups and downs, and I need to readjust and make that change. If you can't do that, then you're really in for a big shock of your life. I don't mean to be alarmist, but I am trying to alarm you. I some days say to my wife, well, I don't feel the same as I did yesterday. I can't. It's impossible. Your iman goes up and down. Allah has given, Allah who is the creator of this universe, who is our master, He has accepted in His creation, and He has designed this creation in such a way that they will lose and they will have their iman going up and down. Normal. Your relationship will have the same. So be ready. Just because it's changed, it doesn't mean relationship is over. But be ready. And those who are not ready to accept that, you are in trouble.
And I think the love journey is also different for people. You take love as a different journey than I take love as a journey. Our circumstances are different. Our emotional journeys are very different. So couples often don't understand how difficult it is. Not just living together is the basic reality. How to function together is another thing. How to you work together as parents is different. How you work together if you share business interests together. But people don't really think about my emotional journey is always going to be very different from my husband's. How do we align that part? We can align most part. I think our relationship struggles the most in this area is our emotional journeys are very different.
Of course they are.
And we have to be extra careful, and all of us. And let me know if you have different challenges. I'm sure every couple has different challenges.
What are yours?
What is yours?
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you think you've fallen out of love, what is that? Tell us. We've given 4 so far. We'll obviously be sharing a lot more. The fact, so number 4, right? For you, 4?
Yes.
Number 5 is when you don't feel your partner attracted anymore. You don't feel your partner attracted. You don't feel that you find your partner attractive. It's very important to understand what that means. It means you look at your partner and you resent them. You find them repulsive. You find them physically disconnected from you. It's that kind of an innate feeling that you have, very strong feeling that you don't find them attractive. That happens, right, in the relationship?
Of course.
That you may, unfortunately, have come to a point where you don't find them attractive anymore. There could be reasons for it. Some of the underlying reasons could be that you're looking elsewhere, or you are building a relationship with somebody else, or you're having an affair, or you are looking at pornography, at things that you should not be looking at, which could easily take you away from your relationship, by the way. I don't know whether you know this. If you look elsewhere, you will not be able to look at home.
Well, it's a bit of a chicken egg, isn't it? Chicken and an egg situation. Because do you look elsewhere because there's something wrong at home, or do you start looking and then you realize there's something else wrong
or
at
you
home?
have caused something wrong at home. Whichever way, we'll talk about the chicken and egg situation, of course, in more details. But let's accept this fact that if you're looking elsewhere, there is a problem. The problem is that there is something wrong. It could be that there is something wrong already, or you've caused the problem. Don't look elsewhere, because if you keep on looking elsewhere, because grass is not greener on the other side. You may think it is. It's not greener. Solution may not be in somebody else. Solution could lie in your relationship. And if somebody else is a solution, you need to really be sure that that's the risk worth taking. When I say risk worth taking, it's the responsibility, the impact, the fallout, the damage, all things that come with such a look outside the relationship. Pornography is a major factor for a couple who don't feel connected anymore, because there are other factors that have come in, that external threat that has crept into this relationship. So please be very careful that if you don't find your partner attractive, what can you do to reignite the attraction?
I was smiling because I was reading somewhere that actually when you look at the expression of the grass is always greener on the other side, physically, visually, it is. It actually is, because when you are looking over, the way the light falls onto the grass, it's actually looking greener than on your side. However, when you walk on to the other side, you will see your grass greener than where you are standing. So, and each of those areas, wherever you are standing, the grass requires the same amount of work. It needs the same amount of nutrition. It needs the same amount of rain and, pruning. And so it's how we perceive, and human nature is like that. We will look at other couples thinking, oh, they are doing so well. This works so wonderfully with them. But you actually don't know what's going on, because every couple has their challenges. Even the couples who look amazingly put together, well together, they know what they are doing. You have an honest conversation with them, they will come up with something else that you have under control, but they don't. They don't know how to handle their finances, for example. They don't know how to have, conversations with in-laws. They are struggling with whatever. So everybody has their share as a couple, not just individually, but we have our own share of set of challenges that we need to learn how to deal with.
Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. The life of this dunya, life of this world, is nothing but a mirage. The concept of mirage is very beautiful, because when you are running on the empty, you're dry, you're thirsty, you're looking for something to drink, and you're in the middle of the desert. You look far away, in the distance, in the sand, you see a flicker of hope. What's the hope? You see water and you run in that direction. But when you arrive, you realize, oops, it's not water. It was sun that was glittering, or the sand particle was shining. Relationship is like that. If you look at somebody else's relationship, you'll always think their relationship is better than yours. Don't compare your relationship. Don't compare or look elsewhere. Invest in your relationship, because that's a far more solid as well as sounder investment to make. More sustainable. It's what you have. Build on what you have rather than what you don't have. That is what you're dreaming about. That dream may never come true, and the person that you're thinking about, who is outside your relationship, may turn out to be another monster, bigger monster than the one you're facing right now. It's better for you to invest in this one. Lots of points have come through. Go on, Faisal.
There's a very, very interesting question here. What about the fear of falling out of love? The fear you may not be good enough to maintain or stay in love, and that feeling stopping you from showing love eventually and leading it to actually cause issues.
It's a very deep question.
It's a very, very, that's why I picked it up, because I think it's a very interesting point, that it's a very deep. So that my thoughts, my very first thought comes that without trusting ourselves, it's impossible to build a trusting relationship. So if I don't trust myself that I am worthy of that love, if I don't trust that if I give everything I have to that relationship, eventually we all end up having some sort of heartbreak at some point. Even in a marriage, we can get heartbroken. It happens all the time. But that should never stop us from loving, giving our best, and learning from the experience that we have. So trust is number one. Number two, the question here is really referring to vulnerability. Are you trusting the relationship or yourself enough to be fully vulnerable? And love, my definition of love is full-blown vulnerability. Real love cannot happen unless you are willing to risk to be vulnerable. And it's not an easy thing to do for people.
This person's question really has made me think a lot deeper about what we're talking about. He's saying, what if you're afraid of actually showing love because you feel you can't maintain it and you're not good enough? You can't sustain it, you're not good enough. That's a massive self-doubt, isn't it? Massive self-doubt. Why do you think you're not good enough? Why do you think you cannot sustain it? Ask yourself this question. Where is it coming from? Is it that I've seen my parents in my life as I was being brought up by my parents, that they couldn't actually sustain their relationship, or one of them or both of them were too afraid to show their emotions and therefore demonstrate what is a loving relationship? So your template from your childhood has been badly impacted or formed in a deformed way because of the model that you observed in your parents? Or are you carrying your friends' projected fear of love and loving? Are you carrying somebody else's projected fear of actually they're not good enough? So there could be a template issue, which is what you've learned, or it could be a projected one that you've seen other people projecting it onto you, so other people's experiences. Or third, could it be that you are imagining self-doubt about yourself? In other words, you've made it up in your head. You may have failed, you may have done something wrong in life, and you now say to yourself, I'm never going to be good enough. What is it? And unless you can identify where it is coming from, you will not be able to overcome this self-doubt. Self-doubt is one of the greatest evil. Actually, doubt is one of the greatest evil if you sustain it. Allah says that in the Quran, that doubt is ithmun azim. Ithmun azim, what does it mean? It means greatest sin. When Allah says doubt, He means conjecture about your own self, about other people. So have every faith in yourself, and you're not to think that I'm not good enough. What do you mean we're not good enough? Good enough compared to who? Your relationship is only two of you. Comparing to who? And if you're having to compete with somebody else, then that's a problem. So really ask yourself this question. Where is it coming from? How am I living it? Why am I living it? And what can I do to start changing it? It's all about neurology, isn't it? It's all about neuroscience.
It is.
Your brain has become used to a particular pattern.
So there are a couple of things here about what we can do in terms of the brain and the neuroscience of understanding this. So the way we become the believer that I am not good enough is a result of thinking about this over and over and over and over again. So your brain is in a way of neuroplasticity, which means when you're learning something new, your brain gets used to it by doing it over and over and over again. So emotions are exactly the same. If I keep thinking about the same thing, it creates a neural pathway in my brain, and it will become my so-called default position that every single time a challenge comes, I will fall back onto that one thing. Oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve this, or I will not be. Any belief we build up about ourselves is a result of neuroplasticity, of creating this belief in our mind.
Just to clarify, neuroplasticity is your brain, the way it creates patterns in your head.
It's the brain's capacity to change. Literally, it's like plasticine, that you can mold your thinking by looking at your own thinking.
But the first thing is the brain creates that particular pattern that you think is normal. You think you can't change it. And Rita is saying something important, and that is brain has been created naturally so that you can start rebuilding all the time. It regenerates. Brain cell dies and it regenerates.
Absolutely. And we used to think that the brain doesn't change after age of 21. So we are set in our ways, and I really challenge anyone who says, I'm set on my way, I can't change, I can't do it any differently because this is what I has always done. Actually, scientifically it's not true, and emotionally it's not true, because with change our thinking becomes different. So just like when you learn a new language, when you go to drive a car, first time you don't know how to do it. First time you sit on a bike, you have no idea. So if your belief is that I am not good enough and you want to change it into I am good enough, it's going to take some time. It takes some effort, just like it takes effort to learn how to manage a car or the traffic or sitting on a bike or balancing sitting on the bike. So
Absolutely.
it's about really, so that's one thing, is neuroplasticity. The second is that we have our two parts of our brain. We have the left brain and we have the right brain. When it comes to not good enough, it's very likely that we are stuck in the left brain, which means it gives us a structure. And if you look at that belief of I'm not good enough, it will show up in every other area of your life, because the brain organizes your life around it.
My prayer is not good enough, my food is not good
Yes.
enough, my talking is not good enough, my work is not good enough. Nothing is good enough for you. That's the problem.
So everything around that belief is going to be organized in your life, because your brain is looking for that justification for the belief.
Because it's a habit.
It's a habitual way of thinking. So you need to unlearn to be able to create a different experience.
It's like when we get out of our house, usually we turn left because that's the way we go all the time. When we have to turn right, sometimes we make a mistake, go left and do a U-turn, because our brain has become used to that habit of turning left.
It's autopilot.
Autopilot. Now, if you want to change that autopilot, what do you have to do? Repeat the same for 21 days, scientifically speaking. That's why we pray 5 times a day. Every day that habit becomes part and parcel of your auto nature. Anyway, let's move on. Rabia Ihsan says, excellent point made about Iman going up and down, so love can go up and down. Absolutely right. Ahad Mia says, what is the definition of love? The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. It's true. The other side of the fence, grass could be quite rotten, could be quite dirty, could be dry and dead. Yes, but some people assume when they look on the other side, when you're looking on the other side, brothers and sisters, your eyes will catch the one which is greener. It won't catch the dirty one. It won't catch the grass that is patchy or looking dry and dead. No, it will only catch the attractive things. That's nature. When you look at people walking around, where would your eyes fall? Is in the person that you think is more attractive. That's why we should not be looking at people who are passing by in that way, in the way of lustful way, in the way that only feeds our brain that has become habituated to that lustful thinking. It's called changing the way we do things, and that's possible. We've got Iram Khan. Would you read that?
How to deal with a spouse who does not share anything with you: finance, family issues, work, home, etc., and remains quiet at home, whereas outside he is normal. It's a classic case of breakdown of communication. So the issue,
Or fear.
well, communication, lack of communication is partially out of fear.
Yeah, so he's not communicating because something is wrong.
Yeah, so something is going on. Obviously, it has a story. We don't know the full
It's a background,
picture.
we have no idea.
So we have no idea. But anytime you get to this place of there is literally zero communication, you need to understand how that person arrived at that place. He didn't just wake up one morning, or she. I
You
think
say
it's
he,
a
I
he.
think it's a
He
she.
didn't just wake up one morning and say, okay, I decided not to communicate with my wife about anything. So the development of the story, and to understand that, is really important. How did your husband arrive at this place? And you need to practice a lot of compassion to understand that he has arrived step by step.
It could be that you have silenced him. And let me qualify that. If he opens his mouth and you jump down his throat, if he opens his mouth, you react to it disproportionately. If he says something, you feel you've been criticized, and therefore your reaction is of defense, of fighting back. If he opens his mouth and he hears you screaming at him and he is silenced, in other words, he's never being heard. People who don't feel heard eventually shut. They don't want to speak anymore.
The other thing could be that you have never really participated in meaningful communication
Yes.
from the beginning. So maybe even the sharing was very minimal, very non-tangible. Therefore, he doesn't think it anymore that it's important to talk about these things.
I laugh. I had a couple the other day with me where the woman, every time he opened his mouth, she went for it. And then she goes, in our relationship, I don't really talk too much. And I said, I'm so really sorry, sister. You've been here for an hour, literally. And out of the hour, you have spoken for 90% of the time. Your husband is silent. Why has he lost his voice? She goes, what do you mean? I said, let me show you. For 90% of the time, it's been your voice that we've heard. Your husband is scared of speaking. And it dawned on her, really? I said, yes. That's why he doesn't speak. Every time he opens his mouth, he's wrong, he can't speak, he's got facts wrong, time wrong, date wrong, day wrong, color wrong, taste wrong. He gets nothing right in your eyes. You're always criticizing him. Or the other way around. She gets nothing right. She's always being silly, she's not logical, she's always emotional. You keep on saying that to your spouse. Are you surprised that they've silenced themselves? They've preferred a mute state of affair because they think, what's the point? I don't get heard. So really ask yourself, if my spouse isn't speaking to me, why isn't he speaking to me? Or why is he shut out?
What am I doing
to
shut someone down? We've got 2 or 3 questions around our counseling service, and let me just quickly tell you, we do offer counseling and coaching. My husband does couples and I do individuals. I do coaching, my husband does couple counseling and therapy. You can contact us directly through our website at www.barefootinstitute.com, or you can send us a request on Facebook. You can email us at info@barefootinstitute.com.
It's
and
best to
we will get back to you. Direct is probably the best way to do it. I will set up a time with you when we can quickly have a chat about what your requirements are, and I will recommend a program within our counseling programs that is the best suited for your needs.
Remember, Iram, your point, info@barefootinstitute.com.
And
Get
I think
in touch.
Shuhana as well was asking, so all our sessions at the moment are online, so you don't have to be traveling, you don't have to, and it works really well because
People join us in their PJs. I'm literally talking about wearing pajamas.
Yes.
It's not a problem. You're at home, you're in the comfort of your own house. In terms of babysitting, you don't have to really pay somebody else. If the babies are too small, then maybe, but it's better in that way. And it's with a video, so it's not that difficult. Get in touch, don't suffer in silence. There are many manifestations of falling out of love, and we're discussing as many as we can. Your friend from Indonesia has just joined. Is she from Indonesia or Malaysia?
I think she's in Indonesia, yes.
Okay, wherever you are from, some exotic country, we feel jealous. I feel jealous anyway. I hope you're well. Brothers and sisters, so what is it that means? What do you mean when you say I've fallen out of love? What do you mean?
People have been very quiet today.
Yes. Well, lots of people have asked many things, but I want you to share your thoughts and your stories. Has anyone who is listening to our conversation this morning fallen out of love? And if you've fallen out of love, tell us, what does that really mean? What did it mean for you? And how did you repair it? Did you repair it? Or did you end up losing the relationship, walking away, leaving? What did you do? I really would love to know. It's important because then we can share it with other people. And it is the sharing that enables us to learn a lot more. We've talked about 5 nice and very powerful signs. What's the 6th one from you?
From me, I think recognizing that accepting that falling out of love is not a bad thing. And the reason why I say this is because I think every opportunity when you feel that you have fallen out of love with your spouse is actually a chance for you to look at what doesn't work, restructure and reshuffle the relationship, and create a completely different relationship that you have had before by letting go of the idea what it was and move with time and accept that falling out of love is actually sometimes a necessity. Because if you keep holding on to the old idea and not accepting that there are problems, you will never be able to repair the relationship.
I have a slight problem with that particular notion. I don't think you should ever look and long for falling out of love, because falling out of love denotes a misunderstanding on the concept of love. Your love will change, that's fine. It will be okay one day, it will not be okay the other day. I believe it's very difficult to fall out of love unless that person has done something so drastically wrong that there is nothing left in that relationship. So don't look for falling out of love as an excuse, or smallest thing as an excuse that you've fallen out of love and therefore you're going to run. Or he doesn't put his shoes away every time he comes home. She doesn't clean up the kitchen every time she cooks. Those are not the reasons to fall out of love. Those
No,
are
I didn't say that.
I'm just explaining this a bit more. I'm saying falling out of love should not be taken very lightly. It's a deeper, more profound state of being. If that's where you become or gone, you need help, of course. But don't make smallest difference or readjustment or changes in your life to give you a sense of falling out of love. That's not falling out of love. Those are necessary changes in our relationship. Jana Hall has woken up suddenly. Good morning, Jana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Where have you been? We've been here for the last 45 minutes, Jana Hall.
Maybe she was expecting us at 10 o'clock, so.
Well, she should have joined us at 9 o'clock. I'm just joking. We're very happy that you're here. Riley95 says, falling out of love is losing the mutual respect of your spouse. Very true. There can be little love where there is no respect. Absolutely right. What does respect really mean?
Well, that's what I wanted to qualify, that I did not mean to fall out of love and then run. Fall out of love, I think it's a natural human, and let's not beat around the bush. It's a natural human tendency to wake up one morning and say, I'm actually not in love anymore. Does it mean I have to run? No, I stay. And that's the difference. I stay because there is a respect towards the relationship, and there is a respect that I want to honor towards my spouse. So I think we are really fooling ourselves if we say that we don't fall out in love. I think we do.
I think we fall out of love at the end, but all the other things start before. So respect is a very good one. What do you mean by respect? Let's explain that a bit more. So when I don't look at my spouse as my partner in life anymore, I've lost respect. I see my spouse as my servant, as my just simple provider. I don't know, it's like a dog on a leash, really. Very, very negatively put, but that's how
Very negatively put.
But people who treat their spouse like that, as a servant, just as a wife who just provides me 1, 2, and 3 things, not a partner in life. Would I be disrespectful to my partner in life? No. The concept of partnership is the most important part of relationship in my view. That's what Allah means when He says, Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. They're your garment and you're their garment. The analogy of garment is so profound and powerful that anybody says anything different, I have a question. I have a massive question. How would you describe your partnership? A partnership. Partnership between individual threads that have been pulled together, weaved together, strengthened, stretched, cut to shape and then stitched and worn by a person. That's a garment, and Allah uses that as an analogy. Marriage is like that. Husband and a wife, they weave into each other's life, pulled together so that they complement each other in their strengths and weaknesses. They support one another. They can lean on one another.
I'm so sorry.
Their families are coming together to support one another. That's how a relationship works. If that partnership has gone and the weaving impact is not there, the pulling together, the leaning together, the supportive environment is not there, there is no respect.
So love in itself is not going to save a relationship. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
It's not going to.
Love on its own isn't going to save the relationship, and the relationship goes sour. The partnership, the leaning in, the support, the environment that you create That's the framework that's going to help you to go through that relationship struggle. It's not love itself.
And that's what Allah means when He says mawadda and rahmah together. Love and mercy together creates that respecting, accepting, supporting, leaning environment that you can create.
But just think about couples who come to you. When they start, some of the couples, when they start the relationship process with you, are they in love with each other? They are not. Or they can't see what that love is. Where is that love? It's just buried by all other things. Like they argue.
Can I give you a shocking news?
Tell me.
More than 80% of our Muslim couples don't come into a relationship because they've fallen in love. More than 80% because it's arranged. Two people have met. They've explored almost clinically about compatibility issues, quite clinically done. It's through activities, work, mutual interest, time spent together, love and mercy develops, and that is what Islamic marriage is. And in fact, that's a more sustainable marital space and relationship than the so-called I've fallen in love and I'm going to live the rest of my life under the euphoria of that romantic love, the excessive oxytocin in our head. For those who feel that they're on the...
That's dopamine.
Sorry, which is like opium, really. You can't sustain a relationship like that. We've got our friend Shireen has...
Assalamualaikum, Shireen. Depends on the definition that people have on what is love in the first place. Very good. And I totally agree with you when you say that the love you have between each other changes. Definitely does. But it's what the couple does and the expectations they have that matter.
Yes.
And we have another one. Interesting. Understanding each other, respecting each other's views, talk gently, don't try to put down or lower your partner's ambition. One-way marriage is not happy one. That amount to oppressing your partner in life.
I like that expression, one-way marriage. I like that. It's one-way means it's either husband's or the wife's way. One of the spouse is so domineering that the other person feels drowned, silenced, completely belittled, and it's his way or her way or the highway. That's not a marriage. That's a dictatorship. And if you are a dictator like that, I'm sorry, you're not going to have a happy life, I'm afraid. You're going to have a miserable life, a resentful husband or wife, and your marriage is going to be a terrible mess. I like this person who has just put that down. One-way marriage is a big problem. A sign of a marriage that's not working. One-way marriage. The only one person has everything. Why? Why are you so selfish? And if you want to be such a selfish, dictatorial person, you should not be married. You should be married to your own self because you love yourself so much. Right? Wrong?
Sure.
There you go. Next point has come from Rally 95. Loving for Allah is more sustainable and enduring than any love for our fellow man or woman. So let's love our spouse for Allah, Allah's pleasure primarily, and for ourselves secondarily. Very, very true. We agree. We love for Allah. We create enmity for Allah. Allah's Prophet said, whoever loves for Allah, whoever creates enmity for Allah, whoever creates friendship for Allah, it's they who have perfected their iman. Very true. So if your barometer, your measure of love is, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, you'll be safe. But a lot of people don't understand what it means to love for the sake of Allah.
I was just about to say, people put up with abuse, people put up with all sorts of put downs. They do the things that they are not supposed to be doing. They find excuses for bad behavior. They tolerate nonsense. And it's, let's just understand, what does it mean that I love you for the sake of Allah?
Yeah. Well, very simply, Allah will not tolerate abuse. Why do you tolerate abuse? Allah will not tolerate lies. Why do you tolerate lies? Allah will not tolerate deception. Why do you tolerate a deceiving partner? Allah will not tolerate you being irresponsible, dishonest. Why do you have to tolerate that in a relationship? So when you say, I love somebody for the sake of Allah, you love them for the sake of Allah by the qualities Allah wants you to have in your life, in your relationship. Allah is kind, merciful. Allah wants us to be honest. Allah wants us to be decent. Allah wants us to be transparent and straightforward with our partner, our spouse. Allah wants us to share and have a respectful space. Allah wants us to create a sakina, a safe space for each other. That's loving for the sake of Allah. Your ulterior motive is what? I want to gain the pleasure of Allah. Yes. If my wife pursues my pleasure for the rest of her life, she will never be able to attain it because I'm a human. She's a human. And if I do the same, I'll never be able to attain that. That's right. So we should not be doing that. We should be asking each other, we are pursuing Allah's pleasure. When we pursue Allah's pleasure, we are good to one another. We are respectful to one another. We are honest with one another. We communicate effectively. We resolve our conflict. We respect because we love Allah. Because Allah wants that from us. So that's the point Raleigh is making, and a very good point too. May Allah bless you for that. Mumtaz Bari.
I think one of the things that you can do actually as a very practical step to bring into it, because I do this with my children quite often. We study the 99 names of Allah. And when you look at the 99 names, how do you apply that to your personal relationships? When you look at mercy, when you look at any of the names, how do you personalize it and look at the absence or the presence of that name in the relationship that you are with? It's great for every relationship, but particularly for marital relationships, is that anything and everything that is important about the relationship is in the 99 names of Allah.
In life, there is a reason why Allah has introduced Himself with the 99 names to all of us. He wants us to emulate those things, put them in our life, those characteristics and qualities. For there are no better qualities and characteristics than the one Allah has described about Himself. Mumtaz Bari says, I think some people tend to tolerate abuse as sadly they anticipate things will get better, with the hope that things will get better. We should all have hope. But while you have hope, tie your camels too. Work to make it better. You can't sit on your backside making lots of dua, thinking things will get better. Dua alone, my father used to always say, dua alone will not give you a son. There was a man who came to an imam and said, yeah, imam, please make dua so I can have a son. Imam said, okay, no problem. Made dua. 1 year later, the imam said to the man, have you had any sons? He said, no, I'm really sorry. I'll make dua again. The imam made dua again. This repeated itself about 3-4 times. Eventually, the imam said to him, what's going on? I'm making all this dua. Something is not happening. Are you married even? The man said, no, imam, I'm not married yet. So the imam said, you man, come on, go and get married first and then come and ask me for dua. It's a joke and an anecdote, I know, but the reality is many of us in our families, in our relationship, do the same. We sit on our backside, do nothing, we're not willing to make any changes, no sacrifices, no invest in a relationship. We make dua, ya Allah, make my marriage better. Why would Allah make your marriage better when you're not interested in doing anything? Remember the verse of the Quran. It is your responsibility to create sakina, yours. And if you create the sakina, Allah will fill it up with love and mercy. So you have to create the right space, the vessel. Allah will fill it up with love and mercy. So marriage is that vessel. Marriage is your responsibility. My wife is suffering with cough. Sorry, guys.
I've got some
constantly
cold in my frog in my.
Constantly having to cough away. Really sorry, but inshallah we'll be overcome by next time we're here. Make dua for her. She is, of course, going to be looking after herself, taking lots of ginger and honey and so on. But in the meantime, what we want to say to you is, love can come and love can go. But loving relationship should be your sustainable, should be at a sustainable level, combined with love and mercy in an environment of sakina. It should always be something that you should invest in and work together. If you are suffering and if you are not able to solve your marriage, there are many things you can do. You can buy a book, available, readily available on our website, 10 Steps to Getting Married and Staying Married. People who have read the book, who have taken the book, they've said it's a brilliant book, mashallah. We've got good reviews, so please do buy it on our website. It was written for your relationship and marriage. If you know somebody is getting married, give them a gift of this book, inshallah. Hopefully it will help them start on a good footing. And if you will need help and support from us, get in touch, info@barefootinstitute.com. We provide marriage counseling, we provide coaching, we provide mediation. If you want to get married, inshallah, happy to conduct the nikah. I just did one yesterday. Hannah's book, you go ahead.
I've got quite a big part of my book which is about the heart and relationships. My book is called Heart Smart, and I go through the neuroscience of life. And you know, I'm one of those people who thinks that there is a neuroscience to everything, and I look at relationships, particularly looking at hormones, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, how your brain works in relationships, and how we are actually molded by relationships, not just being alone. If you want to take the journey, you can get my book. It's called Heart Smart, One Woman's Journey from Her Head to Her Heart. I sold quite a few last week, so would love to send out more. Let me know, just send us a request form or an order form through the website, and then we are posting once a week, so you will receive your copy as soon as you order.
Inshallah. The final thing, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say is that we are here. We'll be, inshallah, doing a lot more programs in this year. We are also looking for somebody who can join us to become our program manager. So if you are interested, or if you know somebody who's available who wants to work full time or even part time from their own space at home, then we are welcoming somebody, good high skilled person who knows how to work, is self motivated and is creative. We're looking for somebody who can develop our programs with us, courses out with us, publicize, do marketing for us, and of course make a difference in the Muslim community's relationship, inshallah. And one request I want to make. About 20-25 of you are watching this program live right now, and many of you will watch later. Can you all share, please? Because if you share, the more people watch it, the better it is. Can I request you all to share right now? Share this page immediately with people, friends and families. As much as possible, share it with people and inform them that we do this program. We try and do it every Sunday in the morning, either at 9 o'clock in the morning or in the evening, 9 o'clock. So one of those times you'll find us. But you will find our post on our website, on our Facebook page the night before, inshallah. Do stay well, stay safe, invest in your relationship, and invest in your loving relationship and merciful relationship, inshallah.
If you need any help and support, you can reach us at barefootinstitute.com. And until next Sunday, have a lovely week. Inshallah, see you next week.
Assalamu alaikum.